Good morning, diners, and welcome to another Collapse Morning Wake-Up Call. And there's a lot of good collapse shit going down out there, and you see some of it behind me. That is the Yellow Vest movement that is ongoing in France. And this documentary that was made is probably one of the best that you can currently find, and I suggest you Google it up on YouTube. And it's called Into the Storm, and really graphically shows what's going on in France right now. And insofar as global mayhem is concerned, at least in the Western world, this action in France is pretty much the biggest thing ongoing at the moment, and one of the real leading indicators that political collapse is imminent in Europe, at least. Also reported yesterday was that the gendarme, the French police, have been given leave, to shoot the protesters, and that is perilously close to civil war. And you know, it's hard to say how things will progress in Europe if France descends further into chaos. The Germans aren't doing all that much better. Their economy is tanking. Sales of automobiles are down. And industrial output and so forth. So they're not doing so great. Angela Merkel is on the ropes, and will probably be out of office soon enough, and it's hard to say who will take over. Will it be another right-wing ideologue? Will the left wing assert itself in Germany? Who knows? And then across the channel, over in the UK, Britain, Theresa May is looking increasingly incompetent as a manager of the so-called Brexit that it seems like will never happen, right? There is offered by the European Union now yet another extension for a couple of more weeks for the MPs to vote for the third, fourth, fifth time, I'm not sure, on the proposals for a divorce from the EU. And these proposals haven't been acceptable to anybody. Well, maybe a few MPs are voting for it, but overwhelmingly the Parliament has rejected the Brexit deal that Theresa May negotiated, and I don't see why anybody thinks that another 2 weeks of chat and argument and fistfights on the floor of Parliament will resolve an issue that has been going on now for 2-3 years. I'm not sure when that Brexit vote was. It dims in my memory now. And the conversation about it has been basically non-stop, and there's been non-stop non-progress during the interim. So that shit is going nowhere. Over here on our own political front, we have the race for POTUS heating up. More people dropped in on the new elections for our clown-in-chief, to replace the current one. And it is now we've got Bernie Sanders in the race, we've got Kamala Harris, Joe Biden says he's gonna drop in here pretty soon, and Julian Castro, and I don't know who the fuck else is running or says they're running or whatever. But the big announcement, long expected and much delayed, was that of Beto O'Rourke, the political phenom from Texas, who gave Ted Cruz a run for his money in a heavily repugnant state, and just lost to him by about 3% of the vote. And this, along with his fairly phenomenal ability to raise money over the internet from small donors, has catapulted him to national prominence as a national politician. He's only a 6-year veteran of Congress, coming from El Paso, I guess it is, somewhere on the Mexican border. And he has a pro-immigration stance, anti-wall. He says he'll tear down the wall, or that's what he advocates for. But he also says that he's a unifier and that he wants to bring people together and so forth. And he's looked at as kind of to the left of Joe Biden, but the right of Bernie Sanders, and maybe he's somewhere in the middle. He can gather a big enough constituency to challenge those two guys, Biden and Bernie, who are at the top of the leaderboard currently as the POTUS candidate for the Democratic Party. There, you know, other ones, Liz Warren, she's kind of lefty, and Kamala Harris, she's like social justice warrior type, person of color and a female, which supposedly this is the year when those issues are important, and the Demodopes feel like they need to nominate somebody like that hits a few of those buttons of you know, the put upon of society, rather than a privileged white male, which Bernie and Joe and Beto all fit that general demographic description. So it remains to be seen who is going to get the nod and how vicious the campaign gets and so forth. Beto has distinguished himself already, first of all by raising over $6 million on his first day after announcing his candidacy, beating out first day fundraising of Bernie Sanders by a couple $100,000, I think. And he also has distinguished himself by standing up and giving speeches on restaurant furniture, which is very original and very photographic and great imagery, and you know, a great gimmick on Beto's part. I, you know, personally am very impressed by that gimmick by itself in terms of his campaign, and also the way he's doing it. He's driving around in a rental minivan to all his little bars and restaurants and cafes and college campuses and wherever he can find the kind of people that he thinks he might be able to enlist into his campaign. And also, I'm sure, get some money from over the internet. That is the key. And money, of course, is the key to politics, right? You don't got the money, you don't got a chance. And so, we'll see who's got the biggest war chest. I think sometime in April, mid-April or so, they have to do a reporting on just how much money they've raised so far, and I'll be interested to see what that number is for everybody. Okay, off to presidential politics, and on to our current clown-in-chief, Donald Dietrich Trumpovetsky. Donald Dietrich is now pro the release of the Mueller report on his shenanigans, which, apparently from, the reports that are coming in, goes somewhat light on our glorious commander in stupidity. And so that has its good points and its bad points, The good point is that it lessens the probability that an impeachment will be undertaken by the demodopes, which would be really stupid, because even if they could get an impeachment done, I mean, they could bring the charges, but in terms of getting him convicted and kicked out of office, that's highly unlikely, because the Senate is still basically controlled by the repugnants. And in the meantime, it would energize Trumpovsky's base of rabid Nazi wannabes, and it would also, enhance the chances that we get stuck with Mike Pence, who's, even worse than Trump. He actually has some political connection and understands what the fuck he's doing. He's not, trying to govern by tweet, as El Trumpo does. So there's no good reason to do an impeachment, and one just has to see how much more damage Trumpty Dumpty can do to himself over the next year and a half or so, as we move towards the election. And I'm sure it's going to be fairly extensive, if to pass is any indicator of the future. Alright, that's enough about Donald. I don't want to dwell on that. It's too depressing. So let's look at another piece of collapse news that's on a different topic, which is recently I did a whole morning wake-up call on this last week on the Death of Aviation. Recently the Boeing 747 was canceled sometime last year, and then the Airbus A380A was just canceled, and Lockheed had another big crash of their 737 MAX jet. Two big crashes of the same jet. Brand new, spanking new jet that apparently had plenty of design flaws and a complicit Federal Aviation Administration that just didn't do their job in making sure that this plane was up to snuff before it went up for sale. And so they end up with a lot of dead people, which, is not too good for the stockholders in the aviation industry in general, but into the rescue of jumbo jet planes. Now that the 380A is gone and the 747 is in the great beyond for airplanes, the Ruskies have stepped up to the plate, and they've got an even bigger fucking jet that they are selling that runs on 4 jets as opposed to the more economical 2 jets that the more recent planes have been using. And that's only if you use big engines. If they use their own Rusky engines, they'll have to mount 8 of them in pairs on the wings to get this sucker up in the air. And that's a lot of engines, you know. And it will haul, in its passenger configuration, upwards of 1,000 passengers. That's a lot of almost sap meat packages, right? One has to wonder how long it takes to load or board the plane and then to debark it. You know, I mean, when I get on one of these planes with 150 passengers, it takes 15-20 minutes to get one of those planes, you know, decently loaded, and then the doors shut and turn off your cell phones and all the rest of that good shit. So I can't imagine how long it takes to load one of these suckers. And just flying with that many people at the same time in the same crate, I mean, I just can't imagine it. But what's worse yet to imagine is, what if one of these planes crashes? I mean, 1,000 people hit the earth altogether. That's really a lot of dead people. So, you know, as much as I love aircraft technology and these big planes are impressive, it just doesn't seem like a real good idea to me to be flying one of these things. But, you know, yeah, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And the Japanese are some of those different stroke folks. They are giving a new life to the A380. ANA Airlines just bought a few of the used planes from the used planes department of, what do you call it? Oh, what's that? European, I can't remember. Oh, Airbus. It just bought a couple of used planes from Airbus and fit them out with like turtle livery, very flashy and kind of cute too, and are going to be flying, you know, 400, 500 Nipponese from their doomed island over the doomed Pacific Ocean in a doomed aircraft to another doomed island plopped in the middle of the Pacific. You know, you just gotta wonder what some of these people are thinking when they come up with these ideas and sales gimmicks or whatever you want to call it. But it's just nuts, and that seems to be the rule in collapse, is that people are going crazy. And I'm not just talking your average Joe Sixpack who's taking too much fentanyl and dying of overdoses. And I'm not just talking about, you know, the nut jobs who are doing the shoot 'em ups all over the place these days. You know, New Zealand just got a nice big shoot 'em up. A bunch of Muslims were gunned down in their mosque. And the New Zealanders, as opposed to Americans, faced by the same crisis, who are unable to legislate any kind of gun restrictions that have any teeth at all. The New Zealanders seem to have had an immediate response and are trying to crack down on the gun problem. But I have said in the past that as far as the FSoA is concerned, that the horse left the barn too long ago. It's just about impossible at this stage of the game to get control over the guns that are out there. There are too many available from too many suppliers, both legal and illegal, and the bad guys are always going to have guns, at least here for the foreseeable future, until there's no more ammo, which is going to come too, but not for a little while. So given that situation, I'm like, everybody's just got to carry. Have your kids carry guns, 45, whatever they can handle. Because, it's just a nightmare out there. And you don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And load up on the Kevlar outfits. Alright, well, that's about all the doom I care to cover for this Sunday morning. And I invite all of you to join with us in discussion of these topics and many more inside the diner, the doomsteaddiner.net, where we chew the fat on these issues on a daily basis. And that's all the doom. This time until next time, here on the Morning Collapse Wake-Up Call of the Doomstead Diner. See you later, folks.